Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Folklore, the official gathering place for newbies, novices, and OG diehard fans of the golden age of primetime. I'm your host, Jed, still viewing and reviewing the soapiest, sudsiest primetime storylines of 1985. We are back on the West Coast doing the absolute most. So whether you're new to this or true to this, sit back and enjoy. Tell the kids it's time to play outside or out of sight. Tell babe no questions, suggestions, or concerns for the next 25 to 35 minutes. Everyone else in earshot, be cool, be quiet, or you will be kicked out because we are watching our stories. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Folklore. Welcome back to another fun-filled edition of Folklore. Hope you're ready for another fantastic episode. Today we are reviewing Falcon Crest. They have put pedal to the metal. They are moving through the storyline with great speed, and I am here for it. This feels a little bit more like the traditional Falcon Crest, the one I've grown to love. But before we jump into that, I want to jump into a very relative piece of fan mail. So go ahead and pour yourself up something bubbly and bright. Full disclosure, I had a mimosa at lunch with my friends, so I think I'm going to chill. Just going to have a little water. We had us a good old time. Let's see, there we go. The mimosa was delicious because I guess it actually had champagne and orange juice or pineapple juice or whatever. That was fine. I liked that. Still working on my taste buds as far as the other things go, so I can keep something a little more grown and sexy in my bubbly selection. But that's neither here nor there. We're going to talk about something very, very fascinating real quick. Nicole from Athens, Georgia, was kind enough to let me know about something that I didn't make up, but I knew there had to be one. Nicole from Athens says she loved Dallas and Knots Landing so much growing up. I would hang out with my mom, my granny, and her neighbor, Miss Elizabeth, and watch it on Fridays. We had a VCR and we would record it once I got older because school activities, but we would sometimes watch Dallas and Knots Landing again over Christmas break while we were wrapping gifts. I found your show ironically last year when I was looking for an interview for that Christmas movie, A Diva's Christmas, which will now be a part of my Christmas movie rotation, by the way. Haha. Yeah, I get it. It was good. I liked it. She goes on the show, I love the show, and I wanted to let you know about something you have spoken about. Every year since I was a little kid, my family would travel down to Vidalia, Georgia for the Onion Festival. My grandparents are originally from the area. She says Collins, and I'm going to mess this name up. Collins, and outside of, I think it's Ohoopee? Lord. So we always had family around there. And she says, P.S. There's also a Santa Claus, Georgia. LOL. Oh my God. And I died laughing when you started calling Valine the Vidalia Onion Queen. I completely understand that reference because I grew up on the Georgia pageant circuit. If you're ever in the area, you should visit the Vidalia Onion Festival, usually in late March or early April. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Nicole. That made my day. I was so excited. Now, I know I've said this before, that she's the Vidalia Onion Queen. And of course, I'm thinking of one person. But that sentiment in little towns, it does not surprise me. So I went looking. I think just really grateful that this thing is happening. And she's right. Unfortunately, we've missed it this year, but I went through the itinerary. This isn't just like a 3-day festival. It looks like they do something every weekend of April. Yeah, I'm just going to read y'all a couple of things I saw. They start out that Friday with the blessing of the Vidalia crop. 7:30 in the morning, you want to get up and go. Then they have like a golf tournament. On that Tuesday, they have Movie Under the Stars. They have some local entertainment. Then they have the Vidalia's cooking experience with Vera Stewart. You already know she can cook. Vera hosts a show called The Vera Show. And she's going to cook all sorts of things with Vidalia onions, of course. They have a Vidalia onion chalk walk, carnival, whole bunch of onion rings. There's a documentary, carnival, rodeo a couple times, street dance, fireworks. They having a good old time, but I have to say I was a little bit disappointed because I did not see the Vidalia Onion Queen pageant. It seems like a missed opportunity. I said to myself, Jet, do you mind your business? Or do you not mind your business? I don't know. Now that I know, I mean, even though I said that, what I mean too is that any little town you could have the Cotton Bowl Queen, the Peach Queen, the Strawberry Delight Queen. There's all these little pageants all over the country, but this one, man, that's impressive. I want to talk to the Vidalia Onion Queen. So I went looking and I'm like, surely they have something. Turns out, I didn't know there was a Vidalia, California. Did y'all know that? Vidalia, California. But there is definitely a Miss Vidalia Onion Queen pageant held March 15th. It was a 47th annual Miss Vidalia Onion Queen pageant, and I'm very pleased to hear that. That is freaking awesome. So is a town called Santa Claus. I bet they have a Mrs. Santa Claus pageant. I'm going to look all that up here in a little bit. Thank you so much, Nicole, for sending that in. That totally made my day. Okay, this next piece of fan mail is a little more central to what we're going to jump in today. It is some Falcon Crest tea. Thank you to one of our listeners in Oregon. It says, Falcon Crest behind the scenes tea. Okay, they say that Robert Foxworth, aka Chase, was considered for the part of J.R. Ewing before Larry Hagman entered the picture. But he turned it down because he wanted to make the character more sympathetic, and the network wanted to lean into the character's villainy. I could see that. I feel like I might have read that one time, but I've never really thought about that. I can't imagine anybody in that role as JR. I just can't. He did it so well. Not that Robert Foxworth doesn't have the chops, because he definitely does. But I could totally understand him being a little more compassionate. I don't know what his ruthless looks like. Plus, Larry Hagman is ruthless, but he's still so charming. That's kind of hard to pull off. Like, he does the most scandalous things, but I'm still happy to see him. Just excellent casting on that. Excellent casting. And I love Robert this Chase. But I did think about this. I could see Robert as Blake, right? I think he would bring a lot of depth to that character. I could see that. That would be very interesting. I'd also buy that Crystal was really into him a little bit more. I think it all worked out for the best. Yeah. If anybody could be recast, I could see it being Blake. Not that I'm saying John Forsythe did do a great job, but I could totally see that changing. Okay, here's some more tea. So, Jane Wyman, aka Big Perm, aka Angela Channing, and Lana Turner, aka Jacqueline, that's Chase and Richard's mama. Apparently, IRL, they couldn't stand each other. It got so bad that they had to film their scenes together separately. Finally, Jane Wyman put her foot down, told the producers they got to do something one way or another or she was going to bounce, and they wrote Turner off the show. Also, Angela's half sister, Francesca, who was played by that baddie, I can't remember her name, Italian baddie, was going to be played by the ultimate Italian baddie, Sophia Loren. Can you imagine? Can you even imagine if, okay, think about this. Most of the dramas and stuff that we watch now, they don't always have like an A-lister. I can think of a couple. What's that show now? It's got Helen Mirren and Tom Hardy. What is it? Gangs or something like that. It's like a mob. I think it's called Mob. And it has that other guy. I almost said Pierce Brosnan. I think that might be the wrong name. Anyway, you don't always see A-listers like that in these sort of dramatic roles on television. Not after they've been in movies. Kevin Costner's a little bit of an exception. You know what I'm saying? Think about this. Jane Wyman has an Oscar. I don't know if Lana Turner has one, but I know she was that girl. Sophia Loren was that girl. Can you imagine all these baddies on primetime TV in the 80s? That is so iconic. That is so cool. Yeah, Richard would have been all over her too. I could totally see that. I need to find a picture of Sophia Loren in the 80s. I don't think I've seen one. Anyway, last little piece of this is back in 2013, a Falcon Crest revival series was considered due to the popularity of the TNT revival of Dallas. The series was going to follow the Channing Gioberti feud between Richard Channing and Cole Gioberti. However, the series was shelved indefinitely due to the Dallas revival being canceled after its third season due to declining ratings. We got to get this back on the books. I think if any show could make it today, you rewrite a little bit here, a little bit there, you could redo Falcon Crest. Hold on. This says Cole and Richard. Richard's old as hell. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I think that could work. I'd love to see any of these revived. I do think Knots Landing, only even though I'm only on season 3, I do think that could be a little bit challenging. You just have to have a whole new cast. You'd have to have a whole new set of people and make their lives interesting enough to follow. But it also poses the question for me. I did watch Desperate Housewives. Is that similar? As time goes on, is Desperate Housewives, is it similar to Knots Landing? Even though Desperate Housewives was it was funny, but it was definitely a little bit dark. It's kind of a dark comedy. Thank you so much, Oregon. I appreciate all the little tidbits. If you guys ever have anything you think I might be interested in, please reach out. You can check the show notes if you're listening on your mobile device. There's a link that says send us a text, and you can do that. Or you can do it the old-fashioned way and send me an email at soaplorepodcast@gmail.com. That's soaplorepodcast@gmail.com. Speaking of the one and only Robert Foxworthy as Chase Gioberti, let's jump into season 4, episode 27, ... and the fall. The last episode was called The Decline, and it's ... and the fall. This one, I'm not going to lie, is very short. I think we could probably bust this one out in like 20 minutes. There's not a lot going on, but there's a lot to the story, if that makes sense. We're tying up some pieces. Falcon Crest is putting pedal to the metal. Things are coming together quite quickly, quite beautifully, and quite dangerously. Pour yourself up something bubbly and bright, and let's jump into season 4, episode 27, Falcon Crest, ... and the fall. This whole episode is about locating somebody who does not want to be found. This is challenging for everyone who needs them to show up, but it's also entertaining for us. Well, we'll get to Lance here in a second. This is kind of a simple episode. It's got a lot of swelling, action-driven, cinematic music. They're kind of turning back the tides a little bit. They're going back to the Chase and the Vineyards of Doom music. It's big, it's bold, it's fun, it's exciting. I was shocked at how quickly this episode went by because it was so exciting. Okay, let's talk about probably the least exciting part, even though it was exciting, Chase and Connie. So when last we left, Connie was sort of blindsided by this Larry Michelson guy showing up. Turns out Larry Michelson is a creep. They had an affair way back in the day. He's trying to get that old thing back. He didn't even want to have an affair. He just wants to sleep with her. It's the whole reason he made the trip to Falcon Crest, so that he could see her in the flesh and talk her back into the sack with him. Connie, at the top of the show, is talking to Chase. Turns out Chase got the loan he needed. He was able to put up all the collateral. Looks like the Helios deal is going forward. She's celebrating with him. Oh my God, Chase, this is so awesome. She gives him a big old hug. But after that, she starts thinking, and she's like, listen, I don't know about him and Boyer, but I do know about Larry Michelson. Let me just tell you what's up. I met him when I was a kid, and then a little later, we started an affair. He was so charming. I was head over heels in love with this man, Chase. I thought I was going to marry him. He told me he had already left his wife when we met. He promised me all these things. He was so smart, and he was so charming and cultured. Then I found out not only did he not leave his wife, he had no plans to leave her. He used me. I felt gross. I didn't even tell my parents about it. I just got my teens and went to Europe and learned how to make champagne. And Chase is like, dang, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Is that the whole reason why he came back here? I thought that was an unusual connection to make. I mean, this man works at a bank. Chase went and asked for the loan. Doesn't seem like he's creepy in that way. He obviously didn't set up anything, but he is taking advantage of the situation. So she lets Chase know, in as many words, that although Larry Michelson did not attack her, she's just uncomfortable by his presence. And she gets increasingly more upset the more she talks about it. I guess she's embarrassed, she's ashamed, but she's also trying to get Chase's sympathy. Now that Maggie is super busy all the time, she's definitely working on that softer side of him. So she starts crying in his arms. She hugs him, and they're holding each other in this embrace. And remember, a few episodes back, I said her office isn't much of an office. It's kind of just like a common place where she hangs out and there's like coffee and stuff. It could be the break room now that I think about it. Doesn't matter. Cole is coming down the stairs to go into her office when he sees his Faja and this woman in a warm embrace. He can't believe it. He's mad, but he holds it in to the end of the episode. So by episode's end, Cole confronts Chase. It was very reminiscent to me of season 1 when Cole was sort of taking over that parental role for his sister. He's pointing out his parents' flaws. They don't really want to hear it. This was much of the same. Cole is like, I see the way Connie looks at you. I see the way she's always kind of finding a reason to be around you or touch you or whatever. I don't really appreciate it. Chase tells him, boy, first off, don't talk to me like that. I'm your father. Second off, you're absolutely crazy. I don't even know what you're talking about. Cole's like, oh, for real? Oh, you don't know? Okay, how about I saw you squeezing up on her the other day? How about that? Chase is like, you totally misread the situation. You need to mind your own business. Cole says, when it comes to my mama, who you're married to, you better believe that's my business. And if you're squeezing up on this woman, that means there's something wrong with your marriage to my mother, and that's definitely my business. Walks off and continues to mind his own business. Shout out to him for taking up for his mom. It did seem very innocent, though. I will say Chase does not seem, well, he doesn't seem into it, but there is a scene where he does play the hero a little bit. The offices, quote unquote, that they're using for Falcon Crest is very clearly a very nice apartment, but they're pretending it is like this office complex. So Connie is outside cutting bread under the elements and cutting cheese and stuff. I guess she needs a taste of wine outside for some reason. Someone comes up behind her, a man, and he covers her eyes. She thinks it's Chase. Chase. Larry's like, not quite, it's me. Have you thought about sleeping with me again yet? She's like, no, actually I haven't. And by the way, you'll never be half the man Chase is. Larry's like, oh, okay, that's cute. Well, how about this? How about, and he pulls out the check in his pocket, how about I don't give this check to Chase unless you want to cooperate with your boy? She, of course, resists him. You can't do that. Everything's already gone through. He's already got the loan. So this man starts to grab her. No sooner than he does that comes the aviator Adonis, swooping in like a hero. Back up, Michelson. Back up or get broke down. Keep your hands off Connie. Give me my check. Michelson passes him the check. Also, send a courier next time. I don't want to see you around these parts ever again. So much and so forth. Right after that, Chase was like, hey, what you got on the charcuterie board here? She goes, just a little cheese and a little bread. If you're selling wine, you give them the cheese. If you're buying wine, eat the bread. Because the bread cleanses the palate, gets the bad taste out of your mouth. I don't know what she's talking about. I guess she's talking about Michelson. But I thought, oh, that is very useful to know. Have a little cheese and a little wine. I guess if you decide you go to a wine tasting and you want to buy it, eat a piece of bread, taste it again to make sure it's not bad. Make sure it tastes good. I guess the cheese sort of enhances the flavor. So meanwhile, on the other side of town, this Helios deal seems to be on. Richard's on board, Angela's on board, now Chase is on board. So in Cassandra's office, Michelson walks in and he is heavily rewarded by Cassandra and her brother Damon, aka Riker, with a check for $22 million. I don't know who's backing these kids. I don't know where they're getting this money from, but it is coming in by the boatload. I know they sold that building in New York, got a hefty payment from that, but they have enough money to pay this guy $22 million. And I think he said that was like 5% of the profits. That's what Damon said. Anyway, business is good. So a little later on at Tuscany Downs, Emma is on a little datey poo with Damon. They end up bumping into Richard and Cassandra, who've been on a date all morning. Now, Richard's heckles are immediately up. Immediately he sees a red flag, and I'm thinking it's because he sees Emma. You know, Emma's always kind of a pawn in somebody's scheme, and this Damon kid is dating her. Cassandra's dating him. When Cassandra and Richard sit down, he's like, dang, you and your right-hand man are all up in Falcon Crest. Seems like have close little relationships with everyone. And she goes, well, not everyone. I just work with Chase. I'm interested in you. What Damon does is his own business. She's trying to play it off. But you got to remember, Richard is already digging into Cassandra's past. It is only a matter of time before he figures out who she is and what she really wants. So seeing Emma If nothing else, it raises his concern. But the thing about Richard is he'll continue to sleep with you until he gets all the evidence he needs, and then he'll let it all go. So he is able to not mix business and pleasure and keep his eye on the situation just in case something pops off. Speaking of popping off, the Florida man is the talk of the town. Melissa's nervous about him popping up and telling all her business. Maggie and the manimal really want him to pop up and tell Richard's business. So, quick little recap. The manimal has this hunch about Joel being the missing piece to the Lance Cumsing framing puzzle situation. He spends a lot of time this episode looking for Joel. Only he and Maggie know about this, really. Maggie was sort of vague at dinner when she brought it up with, or excuse me, no, Chase brought it up at dinner, like, oh, there's more evidence. They're looking for Joel. And they let it go. She's not really saying much else. So the manimal is able to go to the rehab center where Florida Man is located, only to find out that he unfortunately has overdosed and died. They have his gravesite. The manimal takes the pictures and he's like, dang, that sucks. So the only other person he can really talk to about it is Maggie. She's the first person he tells about it, which leaves Maggie with a task of telling Terry that Joel is dead. This is already a difficult responsibility to bear, but it's made all the more difficult by Bad Girl Melly, aka Melissa Agretti Giaberti. She just keeps popping up. So let's back it up just a little bit. Bad Girl Melly Mel has been sweating bullets ever since the last episode. Ever since the last dinner where Joel's name was brought up, she's been like, oh crap. Anybody does a little digging, they might find my check. They might find my money that I gave him. I'm trying to remember now. Did she give him money in an envelope or did she give him a check? Either way, she is having to pay off people left and right. The last thing she needs is for this man to pop up. So she's trying to intercept any conversations he may or may have with anybody. So she starts out by going to Maggie's office at the Globe. Now, Maggie is a business woman. She's quite busy in her new role, but as she's going over some papers, her sister Terry's there. Terry is still redecorating this office. I will say it does look much better than it did from the last time, but it's just kind of okay. Terry's like, Maggie, you like this girl? Maggie finally looks up. She's like, you know what? I do. Terry, I had no idea you were so talented. Do you want to decorate our house? Oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. So while they're talking, in walks Bad Girl Melly Mel. Hey, Maggie. Wow. Are you doing some redecorating? Maggie says, well, I am, yes. Terry decorated it. So Melissa looks around. And she's like, oh, I mean, well, anything is better than what Richard and Lance had, right? Terry's like, okay, I see you. So Terry says to her, yes, I get that. You would know better than anybody what sort of things they like leaving around. Ooh. So Terry leaves, and Maggie's like, you know, Melissa, I really love being in the middle of y'all's hate fest of each other. Melissa says, I don't hate Terry. I know exactly where I stand with Terry. I like her quite a bit. I love that. And I actually believe that. Sometimes you can be hateful to somebody, or it seems like it, but you're just blunt. You have an understanding. She knows who I am. I know who she is. I like her just fine. But I'm going to talk my ish when I see her. I have to do that. Maggie's trying to rush Melissa out because she has a meeting she's supposed to go to, but Melissa's like, well, I'm looking for the manimal. I hadn't been able to find him. I have a business question I need to ask him about. Do you know where he's at? Do you know if he's on the run? Do you know if he's looking for somebody? Maggie is keeping it mum about Joel. She goes, oh, I don't really know. Melissa goes, is he looking for that Joel guy? Maggie's like, well, why did you ask? Why do you ask? Well, you mentioned it at dinner. I don't know if he's looking for Joel. He's probably looking for Lance since Lance is on the run, but either way, I don't know where he's at. And Melissa's like, oh, okay. Well, I just thought you would want to come by for lunch. Maggie is quickly escorted out of the room by her male assistant so she can get down to the meeting. Also, isn't it funny that Melissa and Terry would even say anything to each other? I love it when a call girl calls a hooker a cheap date. It's a self-awareness for me, or lack of. So a little bit later on in the show, after Maggie finds out that Joel is deceased, she's at home, she's gathering her things, she's on her way to go tell Terry, when Melissa pops up again. And Melissa's like, oh, hi, Maggie. I came by to borrow your pasta maker. It's our 2-month anniversary, and Cole and I want to have dinner. Can I borrow your pasta maker? First off, what self-respecting Italian woman, as far as I know, in 1980, with a full rich heritage of Italian grandmamas and mothers and stuff, doesn't have a pasta maker? A rich lady, there's no way you don't have one. That's like coming to the South and not having a cast iron skillet. You have one. You may not use it. I guarantee you lift it yourself. Somebody's left you one. But Maggie's like, oh, yeah, girl, it's this place, that place behind this. Look at there. Well, Melissa goes, well, it's our 2-month anniversary, and Cole and I really want to show off the china that we got from our wedding. We want you and Chase to come over. Maggie's like, I'm sorry, baby. I'm just not going to be good company today. Something happened and I got to go handle it. Melissa's like, well, what happened? She tells her that Joel is dead. Melissa is so relieved, but she has to pretend to be disappointed. She's like, oh, that's horrible. But her face is saying, whew, thank you, Jesus. Thank goodness he's gone. That's one less thing they got to worry about. Also, girl, we're not going to celebrate every month y'all married. It was bad enough they had to go to their wedding. I'm not doing this. And where is this china coming from? Is this from the first wedding where he left her? Because the second one was outside, like in the hills somewhere. Anyway, Maggie finds Terry. Terry is just outside of Small Virtue's horse stall. She and Maggie have a seat. Maggie tells her what happened. Terry is obviously upset. She's like, "Oh my God, I wish you had known Joel before the drugs. He was such a sweet guy. He was an amazing guy, but he's just weak. Unfortunately, he's weak." And Maggie's like, "Yeah, I mean, these things happen." Terry gets really defensive, like, "That doesn't mean he should die. I should know better than anyone about being weak." I hadn't realized until now that Maggie may not know that Terry was a call girl in her other life. And maybe she did a few drugs. She doesn't know all that. But I feel like Maggie wouldn't care either way. Maggie tells her as much. Listen, you had your past. You've overcome it. Look how strong you are. Look where you're at now. You're my sister. Hold your head up. I'm sorry this is happening to you, but don't talk down on yourself, girl. Okay, so back at the Globe, Maggie and getting their investigation bag, and they discover when they're going through all of Joel's records and stuff that he had a lot of money in the bank. What else they can tell is that Richard is a person who paid for his rehab. So there being a lot of money, they don't really know where it came from. And the fact that Richard paid off his rehab thing, a lawyer who is versed in law could probably present a case for some sort of blackmail. That's the story they're going for. Also, though, there's not much evidence. So when Richard is confronted by the manimal a little bit later on, he says as much. He's like, if you really had anything, the police would be here, not you. The manimal asks, well, why did you pay for his rehab? Richard says, I'm a philanthropist. I do nice things all the time. Maybe I did it for Terry. Maybe Terry came to me crying. Maybe you should ask Terry about her relationship with Joel. The manimal's like, I already know my call girl better than you. There's nothing you can tell me about her that I don't already know. I'm talking about you right now. Richard's getting increasingly more and more pissed off. He yells at him, get out of my office. You can't prove anything. Get out. I mean, it doesn't look good, but just like Richard is getting close to finding out about Cassandra's past, the Manimal and Maggie are getting very, very close to pointing the finger at Richard, all behind Lance. He even put a reward. He put a price on Lance's head. $10,000 reward for anybody who's seen this man. Richard made sure that the photo of Lance was like bad. They wanted to make him look exhausted, make him look like a criminal, basically. So let's get to Lance. Y'all already know your boy is quite restless. He's horny. He's lonely. He's getting really bored. And he is this close to talking the cute 23-year-old cousin of Chow Lee into letting him escape. Let me rewind just a little bit. Lorraine followed Angela last episode, so she knows where Lance is. She manages to get up to the room after Angela and Chow Lee leave. Now, Angela and Chow Lee let Lance know that we're going to put you on the shipping container. You're going to go to Italy with the family. You better not embarrass me, but I'll make sure Lorraine gets on the boat with you. And then you guys can be in Italy for as long as you need to, at least till we get everything straightened out. So he has that knowledge. For whatever reason, he does not share that with Lorraine when she comes up to the room. So they do what they need to do. He tells her to be strong, stand up to Angela, or else she's going to run all over you. And Lorraine's like, I'm scared of her. It's like, everybody's scared of her. But if you stand your ground, she's going to respect you and it'll go your way. So she's like, all right, I'll do that. She leaves. And the 23-year-old cousin of Chow Lee comes up to the door. And Lance is like, man, I'm kind of bored. I could really go for some Chinese food. And the kid's like, I could go for a cheeseburger. So Lance pulls money out of his wallet like, hey, let's go get some cheeseburgers. They're about to leave when Big Cousin has to step in once again. It is very clear Chow Lee's family is real sick and tired of Lance's shenanigans. It's time for him to go. So over at Falcon Crest, we get a peek behind Angela's thinking process. She and Chow Lee are talking in her study, and she says, okay, so when Lorraine comes home, I'm going to let her know that she's going to get on the boat. I'm going to make sure they're married because y'all not going to be shacking up in my house or on a boat anywhere. And we'll figure everything out. And Charlie agrees. He's like, yeah, if we don't add her to the mix, this is going to be a fiasco. And Angela's like, no, you're right. He's not going to listen to us unless Lorraine is there. And the last thing we need is him bursting out of that room acting a fool. So we'll just do that. She also threatened Lance, saying that Charlie's cousins were going to F him up if he started acting up again. And he's like, I don't want no more smoke. I already got beat up once. I don't want any smoke. So when Lorraine comes, she does explain to Lorraine what's going to happen. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to put you on the boat. You're going to get married because y'all aren't going to be shacking up on the boat. And then we'll come and get you when things are cleared out. So it's all set in motion. Everything seems to be going well until you remember that whole Karate Kid action sequence from last episode where Lance fought 3 men and then a 4th cousin had to come downstairs and beat him down? Yeah, and the whole entire neighborhood saw it. And Lorraine showed up, pointed to the window where Lance is. I forgot to mention that part. There's so many indicators, there's so many tells about where this man is at this point. It is only a matter of time. Plus, the biggest kind of thorn in their side at this point is Richard. And Richard has put out a $10,000 reward for the capture or any information regarding the whereabouts of Lance Compson. So what do you know? One of the guys from the neighborhood who was minding his business grocery shopping that day and saw the fight is like, yo, I know who that is. He goes to Richard's office. I'm just going to say this. Ooh, representation is very important. And one of the most frustrating things for me is listening to people have to play into a stereotype so that the audience can quote unquote understand them. This man is speaking in a very clear, very forced Chinese accent. It should be a Chinese accent that's easy to understand. But this guy, as he's talking, you can hear the New York coming out. He's like, $10,000. He is fighting for his life. And I'm like, you know what? We need representation. Because guess what? Not everybody has an accent. Sometimes you do, sometimes you do. If you have an accent, let's just hear the accent. Anyway, dude comes up to Richard's office and he's like, yeah, I definitely saw this. Matter of fact, there was a whole kerfluffle yesterday on the street. Very entertaining. I saw your boy. Leatherpants Pam is sitting behind Richard, and she's trying to thwart this by saying, well, how do I know you're not lying? How do you know it was him? How do you know this, that, and the third? She has to do this because at the top of the show, she had to report back to Richard as to not finding Lance. Only the truth is she really did find him. So the truth is, Angela drove down to the apartments to visit Lance. Lorraine followed her, and then Pam followed Lorraine. So she knows where he's at. But for whatever reason, she doesn't want to tell Richard, probably because she doesn't agree with the way he's been handling this. So she tells Richard when he asks, he's like, you don't know where he's at? No, I don't know where Lance is. Did you follow Angela? She goes, no, I followed the sheriff. That's not true. The sheriff never followed Angela because he would have found Lance right away. And Richard's like, well, what about Charlie? Are you following Charlie? She goes, yeah, Charlie shops at a bunch of grocery stores I can't afford to go into. Very, very expensive. That's all he does. He buys expensive groceries and takes Angela to her appointment. So when this man comes in and he's like, no, I definitely saw this kid the other day fighting in the streets. Richard says, okay, cool. Would you be willing to tell the police that? And the man's like, absolutely. What about that $10,000 house? And Richard says, well, if what you're saying is the truth and if we find him, obviously you get the money. The man's like, bet. I'll go down to the police station with you. Now, Pam has to think fast. So she says, oh, okay, let me get my purse and I'll follow you guys. Richard's like, no, I don't want you involved in this. This is going to be me and him. I want to be there in person when they put this fool in handcuffs. So instead of sitting in the office on her hands, twiddling her thumbs, Leatherpants Pam goes to Falcon Crest. Now, right before she gets there, Angela's heart thaws out a little bit. She is putting Lorraine en route to getting on the boat. You're going to go meet Lance. You're going to get on this boat and y'all going to flee. Charlie and Angela have decided that Lorraine needs to be with Lance as he's transferred over to the boat. Otherwise, he's liable to not believe them. He's liable to act up. So Angela is saying her last little goodbyes to Lorraine, like, be strong. I promise I'm going to send for you guys and make sure you take care of that baby. She even lets her hug her. I can't believe it. Lets her hug her, sends her on her way. Leatherpants Pam shows up in a red fedora and no leather today. And Angela's like, oh, God, what do you want? Leatherpants Pam, or LPB, asks for Lorraine. Lorraine ain't here, Leatherpants Pam. What do you want? Well, fine, since she's not here, I'll just tell you. Richard and the police are on their way to pick up Lance. Now, Angela's like, likely story. This feels like a setup. I know what you're doing. You want me to call Lance and then trace a call or whatever and then bum rush him that way. Not doing it. Leatherpants Pam was like, well, you don't have to because they're going to the third story apartment right above this laundromat in this neighborhood, da 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 da, where Lance is. Angela's like, oh shoot. Okay. Why are you doing this? So Angela immediately just grabs the phone, she calls and tells Lance, yo, you need to get out of there now. Richard and the cops are headed that way. I'll get Lorraine to you. Don't even worry about it. So Lance, who is dressed, I suppose he could be dressed like a longshoreman. To me, he looks like somebody who is escaping a kidnapping and about to go sneak onto a boat. That's what he looked like. But he's able to strut downstairs, get in a car, and be taken to the shipping yards. Lorraine shows up in the Gotham City villain car with Charlie. Moments after, she's running into the building, making a scene. She gets all the way upstairs right about that time the cops come. Also, either Chinese is the most effective, efficient language on earth, which I'm sure it's great, I'm sure it is, or they didn't say nothing at all. So Charlie and Lorraine get up to Lance's room, and Big Cousin is in there sitting on the bed. And Lorraine's like, what did you do with him? Charlie and Big Cousin, I swear the only thing you hear is, like, And Charlie says, he said that Lance ran off and da-da-da. I'm like, he did not say that in one word. There's no way. You cannot tell me there's a Chinese phrase that says the 6'3" renegade dressed like a longshore fisherman escaped by going downstairs and hailing a cab to the shipping yard. You can't say that in, There's no way. So then cute 23-year-old cousin comes running up and he says something like, he didn't even really say anything. He's been running. So he's just kind of breathing. And Charlie goes, oh, he said the police are here. No, he didn't. So Lorraine's like, oh my gosh, let me start running. She starts running. Charlie really does say something in Chinese eventually. I guess he tells his nephews or his cousins to go stall. Like, please go do something to stall. So by the time Richard gets there, he sees the supervillain car and he's like, the cops are going, do you think this is the right place? Richard said, I would bet my life on it. Now, he didn't know Lorraine is there at this point. This is where it gets exciting. The cops come running up the stairs. Lorraine hears them, so she starts running around the building and she decides for herself that the best route of escape is not to hide in somebody else's apartment. It's to go out on the fire escape. So the cousins come, they see the cops, and they just start pointing up to the roof. Like, oh my gosh, he went up there. Like, they're acting like they don't know who he is. So Richard and the guy run up to the roof. They don't know that Lorraine has gone out the window. So Lorraine goes she's on the fire escape. One of the cops sees the open windows and he runs over. Now she is trying to very slowly climb down without incident. Luckily, she's wearing leather gloves like people did in 1985. I didn't know that. Crawling down as safely as she can. Well, the cop sticks his head out and he's like, hey, freeze. Well, Richard sticks his head up and he goes, oh my God, no, that's Lorraine. Do y'all remember when Eminem's mom, Marshall Mather, the rapper, she made that song for him? Joe Dustry, I listened to it. I don't remember everything it said, but she's, Marshall, I am your mother. I love you, Marshall. Why are you doing this? Marshall. She was so monotone. It was so flat. It was hilarious. That's exactly what Richard sounds like. He's going, Lorraine, it's Richard. Lorraine, stop, please. Lorraine, it's me. Lorraine. Needless to say, it does not stop her. As a matter of fact, it kind of distracts her. Next thing you know, her foot slips and she's left dangling from the rope. So Richard is speeding down. He's getting frantic. He's freaking out. Oh my God, Lorraine, please. Unfortunately, either the weight of him jumping down or just her lack of grip, baby. Poor Lorraine falls. I don't know how many floors, probably 2 floors, splat-a-tat-tat on the pavement. Ambulance has to come and scoop her up, put her in the ambulance. Richard is thoroughly freaked out by the end of the episode. And Lance is left waiting on the shores, pissed off at Angela, like, where is Lorraine? She'll be here any minute. They don't know that she's fallen. I don't know if she fell to her death. God, it's horrible to fall down a building regardless. I don't know. She fell kind of far. I don't know. She may not have survived that. But they have her wrapped up and put inside the ambulance regardless. End scene. God, that's so scary. But it's such a good episode. I like that everything is coming to a head. I'm most eager to find out who Cassandra and I always want to call him Drake. What's his name? Damon, aka Riker. I really want to find out who their mom is. Surely it's not Jack. Oh God, it better not be Jacqueline. They don't do that whole incest thing over on Falcon Crest. So far they haven't, but ugh, they better not. I just thought about that. Maybe Jacqueline's in my head because of the backstory. Also, I can't even imagine having to work that close with somebody you couldn't stand. Or Oregon said they didn't like each other so bad that they had to film scenes separately. That's hard. But you know what? That's what makes you an actor. That's what makes you a professional. But hey, by the time you get to be a senior citizen, you don't have time to waste. I'm not fooling with that heifer. You're going to have to figure out something. So I'd like to pose another question for you guys. Who would you cast? Who would you recast in any of the roles on any of the soap operas? We can go all the way through Knots Landing, Dallas, Dynasty, or Falcon Crest, or even a popular show that you like. Who would you recast? I'm going to go first. I'd like to have seen not Dan Aykroyd. The original Gary, a little bit longer, but I don't know. I think it'd be a totally different character. It'd probably be like how Robert Foxworthy would play JR. It wouldn't be the same. I wouldn't recast Fallon per se. I would rewrite Fallon. I'm going to have to think about this a little more. All right, guys, that's it. That's all for this episode. Join me next time as we jump back into some vintage primetime soap opera debauchery. Don't forget to send me a text in the show notes or email me at soaplorepodcast@gmail.com. In the meantime, in between time, do not get in fist fights in public areas. You never know who's watching, and $10,000 on your head is too good of a deal to pass up. Stay hydrated, stay moisturized, mind your own business, and keep all of your drama on TV.